Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to Wisdom Exchange number 19, where we will be talking about forging your iron will. So, this will be a super interesting Wisdom Exchange because we're going to go back to the ancient Greek Stoics, unpack their quotes, and really see how we can forge an iron will just like the Stoics did. And we're going to unpack quotes that are kind of 1,000 years old, 2,000 years old, actually, plus, because these quotes can still apply to our lives to help us be really unshakable. And a lot of times in our life, we're still the same humans, but we have circumstances, whether other humans coming to our life within our own thought patterns and emotions, or just circumstances that throws us off. And so, with these quotes and with these timeless, really Stoic teachings, they can really help us firm our feet on the ground and develop that iron will, no matter what personality we are. And this is going to be a lot of wisdom because we're not just going to cover Stoics, we're also going to go into the Cerbalo philosophy from the Sikh tradition, and that's a little known Granth. The main Granth of Sikhism is called Guru Granth Sahib. This is like a third one, which is called Sarbalo Granth, and we'll go into that, and we'll look at a quote and the mentality, which is a bit similar to Stoicism as well. And then we'll also look at how this ties in, not just philosophically, but also where this is coming from, psychology. So you're not really forcing yourself, but we're really understanding where that depth of the iron will comes from within you and within your psychology. So let's just start then with a story because we all like stories, and also share just something personal because I also think it helps just to relate and ease into this understanding. So during my uni days, I used to catch a bus early in the morning, um, waiting for the bus. Sometimes it never comes, taking 1 hour bus, going to uni, and then coming back again 1 hour bus. At the dark nights. And so the total journey time throughout the day is like, 2.5 hours. And I've not really spending much time during the day. I'm in my youth, kind of early 20s, late teens. And that's a lot of time when you're growing and you're an adult. And then I kind of sat in endless lectures, not really taking notes in some of my lectures, kind of just zoning out. And I feel like a lot of youth are like that as well. And then I'm spending my evenings because I can't really concentrate in the class and taking notes, just spending my evenings taking these notes and taking a lot of trying to absorb a lot of the information for the tests, for the deadlines, right? So I could pass. So spending a lot of time just traveling in my youth, a lot of time spent in lectures, just sitting down and not really doing anything else really, and then coming back home and spending the evenings writing lecture notes. And my only solace was then watching YouTube, or then yeah, just watching YouTube at that time, and that's it really. Not really having, and so that pattern just began to repeat over and over and over. And so I did enjoy learning and had a sort of achievement from my school days of getting good grades in the test and learning so I could understand and putting a lot of time into that. That was all my life. Learning, tried to get good grades for a test, and then coming back home. But then really discovering the gym, discovering that I could exercise my body, discovering that I could grow in another way that wasn't just dictated to me by setting of lectures, having to pass tests, but I could set my own will. I could grow in my own way. And so the gym and discovering my body and how to um, grow different, grow your body, grow your muscular system in a way that suited you, suited me, actually helped me start to forge that iron will. And the Stoics talk a lot about not just the mentality, your mental state, but also your body. And so this happened about during my fourth year of uni. I started to, go on my phone and crank up a lot of time during the day, a lot of my weeks, trying to get that dopamine hit, right? Because I wasn't getting that during my day from my uni, kind of procrastinating, having to force myself. And my only solace was getting that um, dopamine hit from my phone, right? From the YouTube, from the notifications, etc. And so the gym helped me a lot. And I was doing my deadlifts, my 5 by 5 program. Um, and, I Googled how to become a better human, and stoicism came up. How do I become a better human? That was the same time that I actually found the history of the Sikhs by Kushwant Singh in the library when I was doing my master's as well. And I made my first YouTube script, and you can see that in my first YouTube video. But at the same time, I also came about Stoic philosophy. And that really, maybe consciously or subconsciously, helped me to understand that I am the determinant of my life, really, and my will, and I should really start to take full responsibility, and that nobody else is going to come help me. And so that the full responsibility and the full will and the full forging of the iron will must come from me. And so that comes from the reaction, the outside events and the reaction. And in between that is a space of stillness that we can think. So then COVID hit, right? And no gym happened. The circumstance changed. And so that gym that really helped me a lot forged my iron will. And that university, now I've graduated, fell away and I had no intrinsic motivation to achieve either with my body or my work. Now I was just confronted with no will for meaning. So if you've read Viktor Frankl, who's an amazing psychologist, but also he was sent to the concentration camps in, I think, Poland or Germany. He wrote a book called Man's Search for Meaning. And it's really all about that when one of the survivors or some of the survivors, not the survivors, sorry, the people in the concentration camp never had a will to meaning. They kind of died off very quickly, or their mental state deteriorated very quickly. But when people had a will to meaning, whether that be to write a book afterwards, the concentration camp, or maybe to see their family again, when they had a will to meaning, that made them have a spark of life and just a spark of something in their life. So having a will to meaning is very important. And so from COVID hit, I feel a lot of us lacked a will of meaning, and we've lacked a will, an iron will. And so that made our routine kind of shatter. And so I was really addicted to my phone, to YouTube, to that dopamine pattern. That was that only way of getting some kind of hit out of life, just going on my phone. And I had to put a lock screen, lock, sorry, I had to put a timer that would lock Chrome or YouTube, etc. I had to delete YouTube off my phone. I tried multiple strategies, and I was battling against my brain, right? And I was like, what's going on? This is becoming a battle of the brain because I didn't have a will of my own. YouTube and all these other apps are designed to go into the brain and want these dopamine hits. They're free, right? But I think BJ Fogg or something, a psychologist, basically lectured the people in the university who designed the like button and people who went to Instagram and Facebook, right? So they're all designed to get your time, and your time is their money. And so having to extract yourself from that social media environment is very hard. And that requires confronting what is your will in life. Your will in life isn't to spend on Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, YouTube, etc. It's to really understand your intrinsic meaning. And that is where the Stoic philosophy and what Frankl says, a will to meaning. And then that required time to think. So if you listen to Nancy Klein's book, when we slow down and we have time to think and time to contemplate, we can start to understand what is meaningful to us, what satisfies us in life. And it turns out not much. We don't really need much. We don't really need to to jump about doing a lot of things in life. And so breaking that phone addiction and breaking having to go on the phone a lot of the time is actually understanding that the mind is very busy and something emotionally or something mentally is trying to be fulfilled, which actually slowing down and contemplating and going for walks without trying to stimulate yourself actually helps. And then you can connect to a deeper will, which doesn't push you in the same frantic way that that some achievement or quick hit is pushing you towards. So this leads me to talk about developing the iron will philosophy. It's not forceful. It's not that we're forcing ourselves to do something, but it's more submissive in nature, which is actually quite paradoxical and quite surprising. But this is stepping into the wisdom territory. We are submitting to the internal will of ourself, the internal will of ourself, and also the will of nature, the course of nature. And that is actually stronger because we're not trying to pursue something out there that we've mentally projected or emotionally projected, but we've taken the time to slow down, understand what we deeply align with, what we love, what we really love. And when we slow down enough into that still state about what we really love, and we notice how the course of nature is, then actually that becomes stronger because we've aligned ourselves with the deepest part of ourself. And so no matter whatever happens, it doesn't take effort to try to chase. It becomes effortless. The action may not be effortless, but the mental state is effortless because we've aligned to what we want. So, for example, it's quite effortless for me, even I have to set up this camera and this mic and do all this research and stuff to what I'm presenting today. It's effortless because it's deeply aligned with what I'm doing. Whereas if it was something I didn't like to do, it would take a lot of mental effort, right? The same if you're doing painting or if you're an artist. Yes, it might take a little bit of emotional effort or physical effort, but in terms of the deep alignment, that is effortless. And so that is actually stronger because it's like a rock within you. And it's the same with nature's course. It's the same with like a tree or a river. When a tree grows very tall, it's very steady and it brings shade to all. That rhymes. But the head is down in a humble way of a tree and the branches are down. But it's growing very steadily no matter what the wind is, no matter how the conditions are. It's very steady, right? Because it's deeply aligned with its roots. The same with the river. It flows, but it doesn't try to get its own way. It flows with a natural stream, flows around the rock because it's deeply aligned to its flow state. So to get to that point, to understand, why am I actually addicted to my phone? Why am I actually addicted to eating things I don't want to addict? Why addicted to eating things I don't want to eat? Why am I doing things I regret later? Is because we've not taken the time to slow down and understand what is actually stronger, what compels us, that is stronger within us. And so this now leads me to talk about the Stoic philosophy quotes. So let's talk about 5 from the greatest Stoic philosophers, really. And who were the Stoics? They were ancient philosophers who really came from a guy called Zeno, the Stoic philosophies, who I think studied Aristotle, Plato, which we covered yesterday, Plato's Cave. If you haven't checked that out, check out Wisdom Exchange number 18. Aristotle, Plato, Socrates, the great philosophers, then the Stoic philosophies really developed that iron will. So let's look at the first quote. Circumstances don't make the man, they only reveal him to himself. Epictetus. So no matter what happens in your life, the circumstances don't make the man, but they reveal him to himself. That's That is wisdom. Because we're often taught, oh, we should accumulate this knowledge, we should accumulate this character building, we should understand ourselves. If you've gone through the personality test and stuff, you'll understand that these matrices and stuff, or personality tests and stuff, they already exist out there in the world. Your patterns in your brain already exist. Your intrinsic core values already exist, but you just haven't discovered them yet. It's a bit like the matrix, where we all maybe exist in a certain matrix, in a certain ignorance, but unless we've taken that mask off, we don't really understand our true selves yet. So the circumstances don't make the man, they only reveal him to himself. So deeply, so going through challenges and things, when we're in our comfort zone, we don't really get exposed. We don't get exposed to our own ignorance. And so we must reveal ourselves to ourselves. We must go deeply understand, who are we? What are we made of? Because that's already within us. We're already whole, and we're already resourceful, and we're already creative. But how do we access that? How do we wipe the dust off the window so we can see that? That's what wisdom is, compared to just intellectual. And before going to the next quote, let's talk about how this ties into the Sanskrit philosophy. Because as we talked about, all these philosophies are accessed from the same insight, from the same intuition, from the same perception. It's not like knowledge where it's accumulated, but wisdom is just that stillness and that perception that humans can attain no matter what race and culture. And so in Sanskrit, the manas, the mind, or the monkey mind, or the parent, the child, or like in transactional analysis, if you've watched that before, my wisdom exchange, or the internal family system meditation in wisdom exchange 11, the self, right? We're not talking about that, but we're talking about the things that go around the self, the exile, the firefighter, the manager, right? We're talking about the manas. The manas, the man is the mind that rushes, the mind that's unconscious. How do we control that? It's like an animal. Buddhi. Buddhi is the intellect, it's the wisdom, it's the thing that sits behind the mind. It's really that intellect and that wisdom. And that's where Buddha comes from as well, Buddhi. Because that ultimately can control the monkey mind, can control the manas, can control the man. And so these quotes and these insights come from the wisdom, it comes from the Buddhi. And we are trying to control the manas with the intuitive mind, with the Buddhi, with the right hemisphere. You can see how all the wisdom exchanges are coming together now. We can control the more logical and the more fast moving mind with this perception, with this intellect, with the adult state. So that's how the Sanskrit philosophy, the Vedic philosophy flows into that, and then we'll go into that more with the with the Sikh teachings. So the next quote is also by Epictetus. He is a wise man who does not grieve for the things which he has not, but rejoices for those which he has. So that was true 2000 years ago, and it's true now. Think about that. Humans, they didn't have the luxuries we do now, right? Even sometimes the middle class or whatever have way more than they did 2000 years ago. And so the wise man doesn't grieve. It reminds me of that Bob Marley quote. He said, "Are you a rich man?" He says, the poorest man, all he has is money. So what does this mean? That he rejoices for that which he has. Think about that people in big cities and stuff, they're rushing about every day. They're trying to attain more and more and more. They're trying to achieve higher status, have a so-called growth mindset. Depends how you approach that word. Whereas you're trying to take more on, you're trying to handle more, you're trying to achieve more materially. But actually, when you realize that there's also fishermen, for example, in an island in Crete, or there's fishermen in the Shetlands of Scotland, and they're doing their life, they have a slow life, they're spending time with their friends and family, they're, they're living life, maybe they're reading books, but they're at that slow pace. They're not necessarily, going fast pace, like in a high corporate world, and trying to earn more and more and take more and more on. Nothing wrong in that. But notice that some people are trying to chase that, but it's not fulfilling them. And so both people are human, but one person has a more of a slow mindset, one person has a fast mindset. Or it could be that you switch them and the fisherman has a fast mindset and the corporate guy has a slow mindset. We don't know. But I'm just giving you examples to think. So really, no matter what position you are, not grieving for things which you don't have, but rejoicing what you do have. And that's again that steadiness, that slow mindset. And you see how with each quote we're going deeper. We are trying to forge that iron will, where we're not trying to chase after things. But again, like that framing, I talked about social framing before. All the wisdom plays into every part of your life, where we're not trying to break our frame in a communication with someone, but we're trying to stay within our iron will and within our frame. So we rejoice in which we have our breath, our family, our clothes, our shelter, our friends and relationships, our work. And we're thinking about if we didn't have them, how much we would long for them. Again, Epictetus, don't seek to have events happen as you wish, but wish them happen as they do happen, and all will be well with you. So again, going to that river analogy, going to that tree analogy, it goes into the next quote by Marcus Aurelius, who was really embodied that midi-pedi behavior. He was a Roman emperor where he combined wisdom with material power, with actual worldly power. He was a Roman emperor. And he said, act in accordance to nature, and no one can stand in your way. And that's because we're deeply aligned with our core values, with the way the course of nature is. With if events happen, we accept the will of the events. We also accept the will that's happening internally. So if the manas is going, we accept that. If the buddhi comes up with something and we want to do something deep in our life, we're not scared to do that, but we accept that will. We accept that accordance of nature, that something within us wants to do something, and so we go with that without fear. Of course, that's hard to do in real life, but it's good to contemplate these quotes. So notice that nature's not on the outside of you, but it's also on the inside of you. And then the last one we'll look at is by Seneca. Seneca said, it's a very nice one. We should take wandering, we should take wandering outdoor walks, so that the mind might be nourished and refreshed by the open air and deep breathing. Wow. So if you listen to yesterday's live stream, or I think a few live streams ago, I talked about the science behind meditation, how in a conscious state, we're on the beta wavelength, but in the more meditative state with the deep breathing, we're in a theta wavelength, and our brain goes into a different mode. And so that brings me to my drawing behind here. So I'm just going to move away from the microphone, but I'll just point out what I mean by my drawing. So here we have like a modern day office environment, or even a hospital or what have you, where we're kind of in the four walls, or even a home environment watching TV, etc. We're in the four walls. And then here behind me, if you can see, is a guy in the mountains with some nice trees and a river. And that is an example of in Athens or anywhere really, um, of Aristotle's Lyceum. And in that place, he took young men to do physical activities like wrestling, but also to walk, to contemplate, to take wandering outdoor walks, to be nourished by that fresh air and deep breathing. And you'll see that in that environment, in the working environment, when we're watching TV, we don't get that nourishment, we don't get that contemplative aspect. We're not able to access our deep states of what we want in life and what we and the joy of nature and the joy of life really. And we're also not able to contemplate the world in that sense. And so wandering outdoor walks doesn't mean walking fast pace with music and or podcasting. That can be good. But just wandering, letting the mind wander, letting you contemplate. And if you've seen my Instagram posts where I'm hiking, I'm able to listen to my own mind. I'm able to listen to nature and able to wonder. And actually, it nourishes and refreshes the mind. So if you read Nancy Klein's Time to Think, bringing that coaching environment, the thinking environment to a corporate setting where people can talk without being interrupted. Because in a conversation, sometimes people want to dominate each other, people want to talk over each other. But understanding that the mind is actually like a river, or it's actually like nature, it has to take time to unfold, to flourish like a flower, the manas. And so the buddhi has to provide that space for the manas to flourish. And so that's what Seneca meant. So Stoics are not just these hard, logical machine guys, like Bruce Lee said. If you become too logical, you become like a machine man. But if you become too, you know, uh, opposite of logical, irrational, then you become unscientific. So it's the combination of both, right? And that's what has that state of mind where you're like, be water, my friend. And so these ancients knew it thousands of years ago, and yet we're not practicing this now, right? We're not having that slow state of mind. We're having quick emails. We're having quick conversations. Quick, we're getting lost in the social media. So again, the ancient wisdom, we are the same humans, but we have to learn this wisdom over and over in our different ages, in our different civilizations. So the slow living comes back to Bruce Lee's quote again: hack away at the inessentials, hack away at what doesn't serve you, because the manas always accumulates things, always wants to do more and more and more. But hacking away at things, not having things pile up, not having things building, building, building. And so it's so paradoxical, because wisdom is not about really building things, it's about taking away things and understanding who you are. And so things may build materially, but it's not being attached to them. It's having that abundant mindset, but knowing that you already have it rather than chasing it. So do you see how that wisdom is kind of the opposite from the manas? It's knowing that you're hacking away the essentials. It's all about slowing down. It's knowing it's about taking away, and that you already have these core things within you. So you'll see how all this iron will mindset, it all flows into the same thing. And so now let's travel from ancient Greece thousands of years ago to about 300 years ago in Punjab region, talking about the Sikh tradition. And again, Sada below, we'll talk about this. So if you're familiar with Sikhism, you know that the Guru Granth Sahib was the embodiment of the Guru, or from darkness to light, that Sikhs bow down to. You'll have the Dasam Granth. So the Guru Granth Sahib is the Shant Ras. Ras means a essence or a taste, and that embodies the essence of peace and the essence of really of that wisdom. The Dasam Granth embodies that, where the spirit of war comes and goes, and that's written by the 10th Guru. And the Sarbalo Granth actually is a lesser known Granth, it's little known within the community, and that is by the Nahang Sings. I think Nahang means crocodile, and this embodies a sort of wisdom where the spirit of war never fades. And what I mean by war is the war against ignorance with compassion. And this is not called Shant Ras, but this is called Bir Ras. And that means that spirit of war, that flavor of war. And Sarb Lo meaning Sarb meaning all in Punjabi, and Lo meaning steel. So if you ever see a Sikh person wearing this, really that all steel, or in this case, iron will mentality. And let's just cover rags very quickly. I've talked about rags before. But in the same way, rags are in the musical system, like do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, sa, re, ga, ma, pa, da, ni, sa. We have that in the Indian culture. And rags are really embodying that musical flavor that can access inside your subconscious. So if you're familiar with the IFS we did, that was through the meditation that we access these subconscious states. But if you ever listen to music, I don't have to explain it intellectually. It's sort of like if you're going to the gym, you're going to feel pumped. If you listen to relaxing music, you're going to feel relaxed. If you listen to epic movie music, you're going to feel epic, right? So it's going to like the rag is going to come up from behind. I'm going to tap you on the shoulder. And when you're going to turn back, you're going to be like, oh, I feel different, right? I feel in this mood. So the Shantaras is going to bring you Shant, it's going to bring you peace. The Birras is going to bring you that that really that war essence or that pump, but also in a conscious state. These things are written in a conscious state. So that's a bit about the psychology behind that and the really emotional intelligence behind that. So going a bit more in the same way, I talked about this poetry analogy before, in that in the ancient Indian philosophy, they had a turtle, and the turtle had a bull on top of it, and the bull's horns held the world on top of it. And during this poetic narrative, a god with a sword was going to fight a demon, and every time a demon was cut, it spewed blood. And the demon represented a vice inside of you. And every time it was cut, the blood spilled and more demons were spawning. And this symbolically represented that the more you try to cut away at your vices, but not at the root, the more they'll spawn, right? We covered this vices, a previous wisdom exchange. And so the poetry from the 10th Guru was all about how to cut to the root of your vice and how to really develop this all steel and develop this sword mentality. And so cutting through the demon in front of you, cutting through the vice, cutting through that phone addiction or that food addiction or that fear, and then not just cutting through the demon, but letting the sword carry through the bull's horns, through the bull itself, and cracking the turtle's shell, and then cracking the turtle itself. So that represents that you're not just cutting to that thing that's in front of you, and you're not just talking about when you're talking in a conversation, not just what's in front of you, but actually going deeply right through and cracking to that bottom. And it's a beautiful analogy and it's a beautiful poetry. So it's really invoking that essence of an iron will from doing things from the deepest part of you. And so the poetry, just to give you an idea, the poetry is something like I salute the arrow and the gun, I salute the sword, which is impenetrable and indestructible. So with the poetry, imagine how that's sung. And that's really getting you to a mental state. Like the samurais used to say that they're one with the sword. So you're becoming one with this iron of the sword. You're becoming one with this all steel. And psychologically, you're becoming deeply aligned. So it's not like you're hyping yourself up and you're forcing yourself to do something, but instead deeply aligning yourself with the traits of a sword and of the traits of the steel itself and the traits of a weaponry. And so that is that depth of conviction and that self-reliance and self-sustaining that the forging of the iron will creates. So you can see the how the stoicism balances out, and you can see how the ancient Indian philosophies, and as well as the Sikh tradition, how the Sarbalo philosophy as well comes into play, and realizing that all these wisdom is not just locked by one tradition, but comes from one insight, one perception, from that, as I say, buddhi. Or if we're going to talk about from a psychological perspective, that this is led not by the parent. As we know, there's a critical parent that we covered before. If you want to understand more about the model, parent, adult, child, you can look at the previous wisdom exchange about the scarcity versus abundant mindset. But this is not led by the unconscious parent or the unconscious child. The parent can be critical, driving you. I should be doing this. I should be doing that. I shouldn't be doing this. They shouldn't be doing this. But it's led by the adult instead. The adult will, the iron will, as the Stoic said, aligning with nature and with IFS, right? Not driven by the manager part, not driven by the firefighter, not driven by the exile, but going into the self. So if you do the meditation from Wisdom Exchange 11, you understand that you start to become unflappable, you start to slow down, get that stillness, and you become aligned. And so that means no matter what voice comes internally or externally, that you start to become shameless, blameless, and guiltless. And that doesn't mean you start to do anything you want, but you're behaving consciously and you're doing things in a conscious manner. So even if you make a mistake, you accept it, but you're not really accepting any shame or blame or guilt, and you're not doing that to others as well. It's a very high place, seemingly high place to get to. But it's actually within all of us. It's not something we need to work, far towards, but it's actually already within us already. And that's what the Stoics have said and every other thing. So that was pretty cool, right? Seeing how all the strands come together to forge the iron will, slowing down, understanding your personality, your manas, with your buddhi, with your inner wisdom. If you want to understand your personality, I've got a free personality package in the description below. Free 5 tests. You've got your Myers Briggs, understand your cognitive functions, understand the Enneagram, your motivations behind your personality, your VIA character strengths, your top strengths in your character, that's scientifically validated. Big Five, another scientifically validated psychology test about how you turn up in the world, and the DISC personality test that's used by HR, human resources, in corporate companies. And that can really help you align and understand how your own mindset works and how your own essence wants to express itself, right? Psychologically. And so then understanding and developing that iron will and taking time to slow down, enjoy your life, taking away things that don't serve you, and just cultivating that peace, cultivating that focus, just led consciously. So I hope that helped you understand about forging your iron will from a place of calm and steadiness, and it doesn't have to be so intense. So I hope you enjoyed that, everybody. Feel free to DM me if you've gone through the personality package and you want to learn more about your personality. Again, I've got a free strategy session 1-to-1 if you want to talk. That's it from now, everybody. I will put you to this beautiful home screen, and I hope you enjoy your weekend because it is Friday. Bye bye, everybody.